I just wanted to get on here real quick before I get back to my financial accounting class that I want to thank you all for everything. And no, there is no coming back. I can't. Just to let you know. And I'm not retiring because I have nothing to retire from. I'm just quitting. And it's just easy as that. It's just, I'm done.
You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
For the World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
You know, I'd always wanted to get an interview with a wrestler known as Mickie Knuckles for one of these podcasts that I like to do here on the show. You're listening to the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling with Mr. Green. And as I started off here, I was talking about Mickie Knuckles, and I don't want to say debated bringing up the topic of her departure from the world of wrestling. I wanted to see how I could present it, because she really did as good a job as any. And then when I first heard that she was leaving the business, and I sat and I watched her Facebook Live video, which I'm going to now encourage anybody that's listening to this podcast, when you're done with this, you should go over to her Facebook page. If you have not seen the video already, you should check it out so you can get the words directly from her mouth. When I saw it initially, I was like, well, you know, I can't really do it any better than that, talking about her leaving the biz. But what I have decided to do is just kind of talk about some of the stuff around that as a bit of a tribute to Knuckles, because quite frankly, she had been one of the early faces of the Women's Pro Wrestling Network, whether she realized it or not. There was often times that she would come into the area and she would wrestle for, I guess, now defunct promotion, Universal Independent Wrestling. And I got her on there a few times. I want to say, off the top of my head, I believe there are at least 4 or 5 matches that we have that feature Mickie Knuckles in action. Maybe 6 if you include the alter ego Isabel Smothers. Now, I guess we're pulling back the curtain at this point, because before, you know, there was never any public acknowledgement that Mickie Knuckles was Isabel Smothers. Of course, it wasn't a secret, but she just didn't go around broadcasting it either. But in any case, the point here being of this particular podcast is the goodbye to Mickie Knuckles. And again, if you haven't heard, injuries, long stem injuries over the course of several years have finally accumulated to the point where she has said that, you know, she can't do this anymore. And if you've ever watched Mickie Knuckles in action, if you've ever seen her compete, especially in those early years of her career, she has torn her body to shreds. I mean, doing stuff like the death matches. I mean, matches that I don't even really see a lot of guys do anymore. You know, the barbed wire and light bulbs and all that stuff like that. I mean, it was really, really brutal stuff. Fortunately, she's never been booked for that in the confines of any promotion that I have had the opportunity to see her work or record her in or anything like that. However, the fact of the matter is that it was there, and she's done it, and it over time has really taken its toll. Jim Ross once said that every wrestler has a bump card, and you can only keep going as long as that card isn't filled up. Well, apparently she has filled her bump card, and this is pretty much it. But let's talk about a little bit of who she was, or at least reportedly. I'm sure if she ever gets a hold of this or takes the time to listen, she can correct some of these things. But she was trained by Chris Hero, who we now know as Cassius Ohno, in NXT. Did a lot of work on the Independent Wrestling Association Mid-South, which is a little bit of a precursor to some of the women's wrestling that we got, I want to say, in Shimmer. I like to think that IWA Mid-South was one of the real first places that started to feature the women kind of regularly. But one of the things that she made her name for is being a rough, tough kind of competitor. And man, I mean, I can't stress it enough. I mean, I know she wrestled in a barbed wire ropes match, barbed wire baseball match. I've seen her crack a fluorescent light tube over somebody's head, and just all sorts of mayhem. How she was able to do it, I know her and LuFisto had a couple of goals in that, if I'm not mistaken. LuFisto, who still wrestles today, and I know that she's kind of toned down the whole death match and bleeding deal as well. But some of you, let's get past the independent phase of this a little bit. Some of you may know that she did have a brief, very, very brief stop in Total Nonstop Action, who we now know as Impact Wrestling, or TNA back in the day, where she appeared as Moose. And basically, she was there to be the muscle for the beautiful people. Now, if you have the Global Wrestling Network, I'm sure you could go back. I think that's somewhere around 2008 where you can find those episodes. And it's not a lot. I want to say maybe 2 or 3 of them. But unfortunately, she did not get a long-term stint with TNA because much like now, you're still kind of allowed to go back and work some indie shots, and I don't think she was under contract totally at that point anyway. But she went back and she worked the IWA Mid-South show while she was doing some work with TNA, and had reportedly broke her leg in a match against Sarah Del Rey, and that was I guess an unfortunate term, because after that surgery, the time that it took for her to recover, during that point, TNA had released her from her contract. So there we go. But she's had many runs in a lot of different companies. I've seen her in Girl Fight and Resistance Pro, OVW, and I think she showed up there as her alter ego, Isabel Smothers, as one of the illegitimate daughters of the Smothers clan. You can read about that on the Women's Pro Wrestling Network website, which I did do a write-up about the Smothers Twisted Daughters. All of them, there's more than just 2. I wrote about all of them, even the ones that you'd have a hard time even remembering that they existed. Ultimately, I think she's held the OVW Women's Championship about 3 times. I know here in just outside of Atlanta, again, in the now defunct promotion, Universal Independent Wrestling, she was their champion once, and I bring that up because she came along at a time when they needed a strong opponent for the incumbent star, the incumbent female star at the time, and I don't think there was anybody any better to slot into that position than Mickie Knuckles. They had an outstanding match, which I do have on the channel, but there is another match that exists out there that's not on my channel, which has Mickie Knuckles versus Pandora in a steel cage. And man, yeah, if you didn't believe that Mickie could go, you probably should watch her in that match. And again, the things that she's willing to do and the things she's willing to have done to her as is above and beyond the Call of Duty, really. Speaking of steel cages and Isabel, there's also the steel cage tag team match where she shows up and does that. And by the way, if you're listening to this, I fully intend to include clips of some of her work, so you can take a look and see exactly, you know, some of the things that she's done, some of the matches that she had. It won't be in full. If you want to see it in full, you should go and stop by the YouTube channel, provided that you're not there right now, and just scan some of the matches, scan some of the ones that's on our page, scan some of the ones that's not. But you should see her her work, you know, just so you can get a full understanding of the I won't say the accomplishment, but the scope of her talent in the ring, and probably was a little bit underrated as a wrestler. I mean, I know her reputation somewhat preceded her as being a tough, hardcore, hard as nails type individual, but she actually could get in there and she could wrestle and exchange holds and all that stuff like that too. I guess it comes down to, once you've established yourself as a certain type of way, that's how most people would tend to book you. And that's what she was. But, you know, I also want to make this statement here, because I know this to be a fact. After interviewing with who we now know as Double D Rose, at the time she was wrestling as Dementia. And Dementia told me, or Double D Rose told me, that match that she had with Mickie Knuckles was her coming out party. It is that match that put Dementia the Rose on the map. It got her to embrace the style of wrestler that she wanted to be at that time. And Dementia was in a losing effort. I mean, spoiler alert, but in a losing effort, she went in there against one of the ladies who was viewed as one of the elite. And we always talk about, as fans, how some wrestlers will get the rub. You know, you take an unknown and you stick them in the ring with a star, and then they, by proxy, become stars. They begin to elevate. They take a new position in the promotion, or just in the wrestling landscape in general. And that's what happened there. Dementia Rose got into the ring with a perceived star who was, you know, somebody that was a bigger deal, and that elevated her. And, you know, I think to this day she would tell you that there's a segment of her career that she owes to Mickie Knuckles. And I'm pretty sure that if Knuckles had not known that before, hopefully she will know it now. The post that Mickie Knuckles put out was aired or ran on Facebook Live on October 5th, where she's, well, I guess I'm going to say laid down and basically told the world that enough was enough, and she had given all that she can give. She thought that she would be able to fight through it. She thought that she would be able to get past it and make another run in the ring. And I know the injury, the hiatus from these injuries would come a little bit closer together these days. But she ultimately, she said she succumbed to the injuries. She has not been able to get past this, and at this point, I'm not sure she wants to. She is a mother, and I don't think that's any secret. Most times, I don't go into these ladies' personal lives and family business. because they may not want the general public to know whether they're married or not, or a mother or not, and so on and so forth. But at this point, I don't think that she is really all that concerned with it. She did talk about it in her post, and if you're following her on Facebook at this point, you know that she's a mom anyway. But all of that to say, this was the end of her road, and I'm glad I got the chance to see her in the times that I did. It comes off as weird, and I never got the chance to talk to her about this. But every time she came in town, and I was there as the camera, she would come over and lick the camera. Don't know why. That was just her thing. But she would always come over and lick the camera. And if you go and you listen to one of those shows, you can hear her. If you see her walk up to it, she'll lick it, and she'll say, "I licked it, it's mine." So I guess that was just the Mickie Knuckles way of making claim on an item. She never did come back to collect the camera, but she did lick that thing in the lens several times. So, I guess that's just a little fun, odd fact of her career. So all of that to say that what I'm going to do here in the last run of this podcast, and I just want to take a brief moment to kind of talk it up. I'm going to take a couple of clips. One, I'm going to take a few clips out of her speech, out of her Facebook Live, and I'm going to put this up so you can hear some of the words from her mouth, so you can, again, understand it from her point of view. That's the first thing. Secondly, following that, I am going to put up some clips of her in action. So, you can at least see some of the ones that I got the opportunity to produce, and see it from one end to the other. You're going to see the hardcore version, and then you're going to see the pro wrestling version. You get to see that. And if you're lucky, I may even toss in a clip of Isabel Smothers as well. So there we have it, folks. After 16 years of in-ring service, Mickie Knuckles, and these are her words, she did not retire because she didn't have anything to retire from. She says, "I'm just quitting." And she felt much better for having done it. So there it is. Mickie Knuckles has quit the wrestling business, and that's not a bad thing. It's disappointing for us as the fans because we won't be able to see her do what she did so well anymore, at least not in terms of new content, but in terms of her as a mother, as a wife, as a human being, to be able to walk and stand upright or move without a horrendous amount of pain day in and day out, it's a beautiful thing for her. So to you, Mickie Knuckles, if you're out there listening, I'm glad that you have survived this game of pro wrestling. I'm glad that you are managing to move on with the next phase of your life and career. I'm glad that I got the opportunity to call a couple of your matches, both as a Smothers Twisted Daughter and as the original Mickie Knuckles. And glad to see you elevate. I mean, there's a couple of times that I saw Mickie Knuckles get in there and elevate some new faces. I'm glad to see that she did all of these things and that I had a little piece to be a part of it. So with that, off into the sunset, you ride, Miss Knuckles. And to you that are listening out there, stay tuned for the clips. Thank you for supporting the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. Thank you for supporting this podcast. Wherever you are listening to it, wherever podcasts are sold or sold, wherever podcasts are downloaded, wherever you get yours, please go ahead and hit the follow, like. If you're on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe. On the podcast platforms, just go ahead and subscribe to us there so you never miss an episode, so you never miss anything like this or any such news that may come out behind that. And be sure to visit WPNWrestling.com. That's WPN Wrestling. It is the nexus for everything that we do. All right, folks, that's it. Stay tuned for the clips. And Mickie, we'll catch you on the other side.
But on top of that, there were so many beautiful moments. I got to see so many great places and meet so many amazing people. I got to see these little kids that I once was come to a show and be so excited just to meet somebody. And I got to hang out with some great legends, and I got to learn all about the world, its good and its bads. Then I broke my leg. And I tried to fight through that, and I wrestled with it still broke. And I thought it would get better, and I had to have a second surgery, and I still pushed through that. And then I had a baby, and they cut me open hip to hip because she was so big, and she almost died. And then I almost died. And then I had another baby, and they had to go back in over the original cut and told me it would be 4 to 6 years before I got most of my abdominal muscles back. So I continued to try to wrestle because I thought that's who I was. And then one thing after another, it was like a domino effect. I tried to not go see doctors because I didn't want them to tell me bad news. Even when I blew out my ACL, I came back way too soon and partially retore it again because I was told if you stay out too long, they forget about you. I kept trying to fight and fight and fight. And, you know, if it wasn't for the leg or the ankle in the same leg, I've got a whole right leg that's nothing but metal. And I've got carpal tunnel in both hands that are severe that I have to have surgery now. And I've got bulging discs in my neck that are impinging on some nerves. And so now I have to have a myelogram done to see how bad it is and if I gotta have surgery on that. And I have to have another surgery on my knee because I partially retore the cadaver tissue they put in there for the ACL. But if they do another surgery on my knee, they want to give me a knee replacement. Guys, I'm only 34 years old. And then there's my back. My back's been hurting me for quite a while, ever since Cecilia, since I was pregnant with her. And my back's been getting so bad. And I couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. I'm not really sure what the fuck is funny, Melissa. But I'm happy you're having a good laugh. I come to find out I've been wrestling with pretty much a broken back for quite a while. I don't know how many years. And I just keep making it worse. It's just getting worse. And I've got 3 beautiful babies that I promised them I would be there. So then I come to this whole mess that I've got to figure out, like, what's more important. The thing I spent 16 years trying to be decent at, or these 3 beautiful babies that didn't ask to be born, but I brought them into the world. And I'm supposed to take care of them. I'm supposed to be their mommy. But how can I be their mommy if I can't even get down and play with them? And doctors are not giving me a good diagnosis on my back. And I did it to myself, like I said. I did the stupidest bumps I could think of because I thought that's what you all wanted. I thought that's what you all needed. I thought that's all I was good for. It's what I was told I was good for. And let's face it, I've never been that good at wrestling. I never thought I was that good at wrestling either. But I had fun when I did it. I enjoyed when I did it. I don't expect anybody on here to understand anything I'm saying. It's probably complete and total ramblings of a nut job. Guys, I've had 24 concussions, maybe some more than that, I don't know. And right now, there's serious talks about surgery on my spine. My L4 and my L5 just slide right over top of each other. And all I keep thinking about is my kids. You know, if it wasn't for wrestling, I would have never met my husband. I would have never had my babies. So I can't be mad at that. I love the fact that they came because of that part of my life, but that part of my life is over.
Got about a hair, takes over. Very lax cover, too. Pandora must have really had her bell rung to come out at the 2. Normally she's shooting to kick out at 1. And Knuckles, again, not threatened. Feels very confident, sends it to the ropes. Pandora's trying to get a crucifix into a roll-up. Knuckles just sits down, too. There's a nice pinning combination, but not enough to bring the big Mickie Knuckles over. Again, Knuckles acts crazy, but she knows what she's doing. She knew that Pandora didn't have enough to bring her down. Sits on the bottom turnbuckle, and now stands on her lower back. Just stomps it. Pandora's fighting from the mat, but she's fighting. Reversals, is into the ropes. High cross body caught by Knuckles. It looks like she, spinning Uranagi slams Pandora down into the mat. That may be it.
It says, let me tag my bigger, stronger partner who charged him for a clothesline, but Knuckles ducked underneath it. Northern Light suplex, great bridge. Slice able to get out of that. Now here comes Kalisto. It looks like Kalisto may have just wanted to get a stiff kick in there, but she didn't want no part of Knuckles. Slice now trying to fight out. Can full of hair. Back of the head to the mat, too. And a kick out, and not just a kick out, but a kick from Knuckles. But it wasn't enough to keep Skylar Slice down. Slice is not showing what she is made of. And I guess when you have somebody walking in on your home turf, so to speak, you got to bring your A game. And Slice is doing just that. 4 rounds to try to break that headlock, and now a head and butt by Knuckles, who is known for giving those out when necessary. Benjamin Rose is back up to her feet, catches it with a forearm, and now a second one. Looks like she's trying to cut off Mickie Knuckles from whatever she had planned. Knuckles is fighting back, trying to put the Rose back down. How's the Rose? Oh, Knuckles is going for headbutts. Now the Rose catches her head, and now they're sending headbutts to each other. A series of headbutts, one after the other. Crowd is rocking. Mickie is out of it. Looks like she's out on the feet up there. There goes a superplex. That may have been, that may have been the maneuver that put her down, but Benson doesn't have anything left in the tank to get over there and make that cover. A lock up with the hands, and if he takes it to rear waist lock. Jezebel uses her backside to pop the abdomen of her opponent and get a quick break into a wrist lock as Jezebel smothers. Knuckles is now sizing her up. Elbow. Takes it back into a rear waist lock. Right to a side cravat. This is starting off as a technical matchup between the two. They're going hold for hold. Jezebel reaches around, takes it to a top wrist lock. Mickie Knuckles is thanking somebody in the audience, assumably for her work in the ring. She just took off her arm piece. And now she's licking her arm. We've seen her do this before, and she has effectively greased herself to get into that top wrist lock and break out of it. Applying a wrist lock of her own, Jezebel is now neutralized as Mickie forces her over. Just a little bit, but Jessie comes through. Back into a wrist lock of her own. Rolled through by Mickie Knuckles. Leg trip. Takes her over, pins down the arm. Grab another wrist lock. is a war of holes right now. Decibel doing the smart thing, backs herself up into the corner, grabs off on the ropes, forces the break. Yes, Decibel is saying that she has been licked to shame. And Mickie Knuckles responds in kind because I lick people, that's what I do.